Morning, everyone. I don't make the church schedule out for who's having what mass, so I don't know what I've told you about myself. So if I'm repeating myself, it's not because of my age this time. It's because I don't remember what masses I've had. So just a little bit of background on me. Born in Toledo, Ohio. I had an older sister, 15 years older than me. She died about 6 years ago. I have a brother, 13 years older than me, lives in California. And then there's me. So growing up, I was the baby of the family. But because by the time I got a chance to really have a good cognitive memory, my brother and sister had moved out of the house. So in a way, I was the only one. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is I'm spoiled, okay? That's how I grew up. I didn't have hand-me-downs. I had my own room, didn't have to share a room and all that. I think I outgrew it, but I'm not sure. I still like things my way. But I had a flashback down memory lane reading the gospel, and it was when my sister and brother would come home for Christmas or Easter or the special holidays that they would come home for. I really enjoyed seeing them and getting a chance to know them, but there were some problems. My parents said, just because they're home, you still have to go to bed at the normal time, which was about 8 o'clock at night. About 8:15, my brother would come down the hall in a very loud voice and said, "Good, he's in bed. Let's order pizza." And I would get so worked up, I would come out and yell at them, "It's not fair, it's not fair. Can't have pizza." And then my parents would yell at me and say, "Get back to bed, it's past your bedtime. It's not fair, it's not fair." That's exactly what I feel about this gospel. I can understand why these people are having this difficulty. Because throughout my life, I have complained to God about so many things that I didn't think weren't fair. The pizza issue, some of my classes that I had in high school where I didn't think the teacher was fair to me because I should have gotten 100 on that test, not a 98. When I was 18, my mom died. That wasn't fair. I had a lot of those conversations with God. And I think I'm not the only one. I think we all have those conversations with God that something's not fair because we don't get our own way. A friend gets a lucky break while we continue to struggle. You make one mistake in your life and it seems to follow you wherever you go. You work hard to make a living, and you're still just barely getting by. It's not fair. So in this gospel today, when we hear this parable about the landowner and the servants, I can really understand them complaining that these people who worked 1 hour in the field, they got the same pay as somebody who worked hard for 8. In fact, I would probably be one of the first people in line complaining to that landowner at that point. But that's not what this gospel's about. This gospel is really about the generosity of God. Sometimes that's hard for us to grasp because we think our way is the right way. My sister, God rest her, she'll come back and haunt me for talking about her, but we would have discussions on religion every so often. This is before I became a priest. We would have these comments and these, what do you think mom and dad are doing in heaven right now? Or what do you think heaven's like? Well, I remember having a conversation about this gospel because she would say to me things like, "It's not fair. We're Catholic. We have a lot of rules to follow. Why don't those other churches have as many rules as us?" Maybe you've asked that question as well. I don't know. My response to her once was, Why are you keeping the rules? Is it because you're trying to earn a place in heaven or because you love God? Remember, I learned instigation from my brother and sister. She would get upset with that. But really, this is about God's generosity to us. That we sin and he still forgives us. He's still willing to give us his mercy. But there's a little bit of a catch to it. You know, even when you look at the parable, God didn't just give the landowner didn't just give the paycheck to anybody he saw. He gave that paycheck to people who worked in the vineyard. And that's the same thing for us. God is generous, but he expects us to do our part as well. You know, we can sin and we can fall and we can go to confession. But the caveat with confession is we're going to try really hard not to fall into that pattern again. It's not just about saying, I presume in your mercy, and because I asked for it, I'm going to get it. But I'm going to try to follow your law. I'm going to try to follow what you ask me to do. While it really doesn't seem fair in this gospel, I'm glad God's not fair, because I deserve not as much as he gives me. He gives me blessings each and every day. The devil is the one who says, don't look at the blessings, look at what's not fair in your life. So let's ask ourselves, do we do the work that God intends for us to do, or do we presume in his mercy? And then do we take account of the blessings that he gives us each and every day? Or are our eyes focused on those things that other people have and not what we have?